Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'm so impressed by everyone turning up today. I'm really, really happy to welcome you all to our very, very first online event for retreat leaders and owners, run by Queen of Retreats. I am absolutely honoured to be speaking to you today from Devon. We have speakers and delegates from all over the world. We have somebody in New Mexico who's just got up at 6 a.m. right the way through to quite a lot of us Europeans and Brits. It's lunchtime-ish, moving through to India, where there's people speaking to us at dusk, right up to somebody in Bali, a few people in Bali actually talking to us. It's about 9 o'clock at night. So we are literally all four corners of the world. And as the world rages outside in all its glory, I'm hoping that this hour will be an hour of solace for you all and a chance for you to gather some ideas and inspiration to help you survive and thrive this coming year. So before we kick off, I would really love it if you could all just join me in a very short meditation. Could you just make yourselves comfortable and close your eyes and take a very, very deep breath. Wherever you are sitting, if you're standing, sitting, think about what's touching the ground. For me, it's my feet, might be your legs. And imagine roots growing down into the earth, anchoring you wherever you are, right down into the earth, roots anchoring you. Then I would like you to imagine a beautiful white, shining, healing light gathering at your own feet, and bring that light up through your entire body, very slowly up from your feet, through your ankles and your calves, your knees, your thighs, up through into your lower back, your upper back, and all the way up your spine, up to your shoulders, and then down the length of both of your arms, all the way to your fingertips and back up again, into your neck, up into your face, and right up into the back of your head and into your brain. And hold that shining white healing light right in the center of your brain. And just think, right now is just a short hour where we all gathered from all four corners of the globe to help each other and work as a community to survive and thrive. So I want you to take that light now up into the sky. Take one more deep breath. And when you are ready, just open your eyes. Thank you again for joining me. So the last 12 months have been completely hellish for everyone, and especially the travel industry, of course, and that includes the retreat industry. So we have witnessed your stories over the past months, and we know some of you have been closed, some of you are fighting for survival, some of you have had to cancel huge amounts of bookings, some of you can't sort out insurance, and so it goes on, wherever you are in the world. But I want you today, both my business partner Victoria and I, to take solace from the fact that there are fragile signs of hope. There are daffodils in Devon, and there are fragile signs of hope in the industry because of the pandemic, because of the climate emergency, because of the mental health crisis around us, because of the biodiversity emergency, because of the political instability and the economic instability around the world. Because of all these things, which have hurt us, but also they are our opportunity. Because now more than ever, people will need well-being, support, the chance to create and learn things new, the chance to change themselves so that they too can survive and thrive in this world and therefore help others and the planet to do the same. So that is our succor that we can take. and we can help each other do that. So to this end, I have invited 3 speakers today, all of whom have used the pain of the last 12 months to somehow pivot their business. We will hear from Tania, who runs Advivum Journeys, who creates beautiful retreats all the way around the world in Hawaii, France, the UK, and Canada to help people answer key questions in their lives. And she has used the last 12 months to use the online community to build her own community and connect with them there. After we've heard from Tania, we'll hear from Jean-Claude, who is based in Bali. He is the founder and lead therapist of The Place, which is a residential emotional recovery center. And he has used the last 12 months to devote his time on focusing how to offer long-term retreats, and especially retreats for men. And finally, we will hear from Jools, who is based in London today. She has been going for about 12 years and runs boutique yoga adventures all around the world. And she has used the last 12 months to learn how to and become genuinely and authentically sustainable. No greenwashing. So we hope that you'll take something from each of these speakers. We are going to hear from them each 5 minutes. And then after that, we'll open the floor up for questions. May I just ask that you keep yourself muted, and when you would like to ask a question, if you just use the raise hand emoji on your Zoom, I will see this and I will try to get to each one of you in turn. If we cannot cover all the questions within the hour, then you can just email me or the info@queenofretreats.com email, and we will direct your question to the right person. And there we go. And also, if this works for people and makes people feel good and is useful, we would love to offer it as a regular thing to be decided. We will be recording this event, and we can send you all a recording, so you don't have to take vast amounts of notes. Just be present and witness and learn and welcome to everyone. So I'd now like to hand over to Tania.
Thanks, Caroline. Good morning, everyone. I am seated about 100 feet from the Pacific Ocean, so the ocean greets you all. It is great to see so many faces. I don't know about you, but I just found it so moving to see everybody come up on the screen and to really realize the depth of the community that still exists, even though we may not be in each other's spheres these days. So thanks, Caroline, for creating that opportunity for us. So I'm just going to share a little bit of my story and what I and my team at Advivum Journeys have been doing, in hopes that maybe it offers a few threads to some of you or provokes a few questions. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if I can be of support to you. So I have a transformational travel company, which means that we use the whole experience of traveling to destination and a fully curated retreat upon arrival to really lift up some really big, important questions like, who do I dare to be now? What would it mean for me to be living my best life? Where would I go if I knew the way? These kinds of things, you know, the things we ask every morning when we wake up, basically. And like many of you, the pandemic hit hard. So we were actually finishing a retreat in Hawaii when pandemic chatter started. We jokingly said, ha ha ha, you know, wouldn't it be funny if we couldn't all get home? And we did get home, but it seemed pretty close to us, you know. And then, of course, everything canceled. I'm imagining same for everybody on this call. Refunded everyone's fees and sat there for a while, and probably like you thought, oh, okay, I'll give myself a 6-week, you know, dusting off. It's okay. I can manage 6 weeks on my own. And of course, here we still are in a world that's waiting to open up again. So in that time, I asked myself, you know, what can I do if my whole purpose has disappeared? My purpose being hosting retreats for everyone. And as I sat with that question and sat with that question with my team, we really came to understand that we are in the business of hosting epiphanies and communities. We are aching to do it back on retreat, but while retreats elude us, there is still a way to do both of those things. And so as soon as we grabbed a hold of that idea, we kicked off a whole new series of offerings, which have been virtual events, which I'll explain a little bit. So really, we realized that the question, how can I keep my community engaged, was the most critical question. I firmly believe, and the other associations that I advise, like the Transformational Travel Council, also believe that this world will open up. Retreats will be a huge part of what people turn to in order to realign themselves or reinsert themselves into their lives. So this industry really is in, you know, this sort of pullback slingshot moment, right? We are coming back and it is going to launch forward. So I asked, you know, what are my superpowers and how can I use them? And you may want to ask yourselves about your own superpowers. For me, it's about being able to host warm spaces where people can gather in engaged conversations. And so I asked, how do I do that online? How do I still create these experiences for everybody? So what I have done, we have daily coffee chats where people come online, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and just natter. I mean, don't you miss that? That's that beginning feeling when people would come into your retreats and meet one another in the hallway, or, you know, before they're entering into the yoga studio, and be a bit nervous and, hi, I'm so-and-so, and what do you think about this? That's beautiful energy, and people still want to feel that. So we start with coffee chats, which are simple registrations. They are free, but they're a way for me to create attachment. They're a way for me to keep my community enthusiastic and engaged, which will be important for that slingshot moment. We've also created what we call field trips, which are mini retreats. So they're an hour and a half to 2 hours long, where we actually go through a little workshop process. People still asking big questions, and they're wondering if it's okay to lean into them, and if it's okay to not know their direction and have guides create a path for them. So we also do that virtually with breakout groups and lots of engagements. There's laughter, there's tears. It feels just like it feels when we're all seated together. I do that also to bring in new members into my community. So through those two things, I've grown my own community by about 20% in this time. This will be important when it comes back to the offering, when we're all happy and announcing our retreats again. And then I have grounded retreats, which are 3 to 6 week series. And those are paid, and those are more articulated, you know, explorations of these questions. And they can be done in a way where everyone feels like they are seen and they have a chance to participate and share. And what I have learned is that that's what everybody is really aching for. All your participants still want to see you, and they want to share with you, and they want a sense of belonging, especially now. So from there, I have challenged my team to expand the topics that we facilitate, to really increase our own learning, because we won't have time to do it when we're off to the races. To do all the nitty gritty, of course, of the website, mailing list, all of that kind of stuff, the necessary stuff, because I really believe readiness is what we as a community need to be leaning into. I also realized that the best part of leaning into all of that was creating a community and leaning into the support of other retreat leaders and saying, oh my God, this sucks. What are you doing? Because I have not seen another person in a year. You know, we should, I believe, support one another, leverage one another, share with one another, lift each other up, so that we all make it to the finish line. And that's what's really most important to me. So in that vein, I've been coaching others and helping them redesign whatever it is they want to offer. And I've been spending time like this. It's not the same, but it is still really great, in my opinion, to really share and see faces and know that we're in this together. So that's a little bit of my story. And if I can be of any help to anybody, you know, just come on over and visit.
Thank you so much, Tania. Thank you very much. So if you have any questions for Tania specifically about what she said or anything else, hold them for the moment. I'd like to turn to Jean-Claude now, who's in Bali, our only male speaker today. It's about 9:30 at night with him. Jean-Claude, over to you.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Caroline, for inviting me to speak. And Tania, thank you for the beautiful presentation that you did. You do it so well. You know, I think all of us can look up to you and learn from you. It was absolutely wonderful. And I am Jean-Claude Chalmet. I founded a retreat center, which is a emotionally recovery center. I would say we are a no-nonsense, results-oriented psychological intervention center that is also relaxing and restorative and tasty and nutritious here in Bali. I started this 5 years ago, and you know, things were going wonderfully well. 2020, of course, then arrived on our doorstep, and we were in the middle of a full residential retreat. People stay here anytime from 7 days all the way to 90 days or sometimes beyond that for deep transformational work, which comprises of psychotherapy, individual and group, Kundalini yoga, and a variety of treatments to complement that. March 22nd arrived. The Indonesian government decided that they were going to close the island of Bali. And we were in absolute shock because we were expecting to do 1 day of silence, which happens here in Bali. And we ended up with almost 360 days of silence, which meant that everything was closed, all hotels, all restaurants, all shops, including the beaches. We are here 200 meters from the Indian Ocean, and we could not even access to walk on the beach. That's how strong it was. We had to cancel 42 bookings. We had to refund over €500,000, which was a very painful exercise. And on top of that, to make it even more painful, the governments told us that we were going to reopen on the 31st of July, which then they changed to the 11th of September. And on the 10th of September, they announced that they were going to remain closed until the 31st of December. And then on the 28th of December, they told us, we're going to close until the 14th of January. And on the 11th of January told us, so it's now going to be the 28th of January. And we suspect that this is going to go on until mid-March. Now, where I'm different from Tania and from Jools, who Jools will be speaking after me, is that they run retreats all over the world, which I admire them for because I don't know how they do it. Running one retreat permanently is already, you know, quite intense. I admire both of you ladies for doing that. But it means that, you know, we were here with a permanent staff of 32 that, you know, we kept running. Because we were promised that, you know, it was going to open in a month, it was going to open in 6 weeks, it was going to open in another month, and so on. And unfortunately for the island, if this goes on until March, the government predicts that 72% of all small, medium enterprises will have disappeared here on the island, which is quite disastrous. We were able to get some people in through a very special program, which was a business visa. And we managed to get a number of people in for 90-day retreats who are still here at the moment. But now, as I explained, Bali has completely, and Indonesia has completely closed, and that will be until we don't know when. And bearing in mind that most of our clients come from the US, from Europe, from the Middle East, that of course is a very big problem. And although we are very close to Australia, the rumor is that Australia will remain closed until the end of 2021 for international travel. So, like Tania, we sat down with the team and we said, what are we going to do? Because after the third time that we were disappointed that, there was an extension of Bali remaining closed, we had to think of what are we going to do if we survive this? Because by September, we did not know, would this last for another month, 3 months, another year? No one knew. And so we sat down and we said, okay, now if we were to get through this, what do we want to look like at the other side of this? What is the best part of us? What can we look at? What would be the best way for us to move forward and to achieve success in what we are good at? So we had to define, first of all, very clearly what we were excelling at, and then see what we could do. And we found that long-term retreats were something that was very, very special. They were very transformational. We had a lot of recommendations. We had a lot of people that wrote amazing reviews on the work that we did. So that was the first thing that we looked at. And then upon analysis, we found that 70% to 80% of our clientele were men, which in the traditional model of retreats is quite extraordinary. And when Tania and Jools and I, together with the team of the Queen of Retreats that organized this marvelous event, we talked about this and we said, yes, it's a bit inverse of what normally happens. Normally at retreats, you have 70, 80% of ladies and 20 to 30% of men. So that was a very interesting observation. So we decided then to change our business model and to gear ourselves, without excluding ladies, of course, to go into longer term retreats, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 13 weeks, which we had been successful at, but we wanted to concentrate more on that. And we wanted to concentrate more also on men. And I get very often asked, why men? And for me, being a man myself, I feel strongly that for the retreating world, when people are self-aware, and for men especially, that they're self-aware, that they know their current issues are of a psychological nature, that they are extremely badly served. Most of the time, what can they do? If we're all very honest with ourselves, what can they do? They can go to a yoga retreat or a medi spa and hope for the best. There are very few places in the world where they can go and where they can actually dive deep in whatever their psychological issues is, whether they are bereaved, whether they're heartbroken, burned out, whether they are suffering from childhood trauma, whatever it is. It's quite difficult for men to go somewhere where they will feel safe enough in order to open up. And that is something that we wanted to create and make possible for men, so that it was very much geared to, not excluding ladies, but very much geared that they would feel safe. And that has been my big ambition. And I didn't want people to come to a retreat where they had to hope for the best. I wanted people to come to a retreat where they were absolutely almost sure of what they were going to get was tailored to their needs that they had, that when they wanted to work at a specific problem, they did not have to go to a rehab or detox center, which are very often the only possibilities that they have. So for me, that was very important to create such a space and to be able to offer that in a way that it became very accessible and at the same time very possible for them to obtain a transformation from where they were to where they wanted to go.
Thank you,
I
Jean.
think that retreats for men are very undercatered, and I think there's a lot of potential and there's enough pie for everybody. So I hope that this has been informative and may help you in your creative and innovative paths forward for your own retreats. And if ever you wanted to know something more, of course, I'm always available. Thank you for listening. And thank you, Queen of Retreats, for organizing this and letting me speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-Claude. That was lovely. Thank you. There's a massive market there. We need to get all of our men folk on retreat for sure. Now I'd like to just turn to our last speaker, Jools from London.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak, Caroline and Victoria. This is a real honour and it's just so exciting to be part of this community. I'm feeling quite nervous suddenly, so sorry if I babble on, but I'm just going to go for it. So I am the owner of Reclaim Yourself Retreats. We've been operating since 2005, so 15 years in the business, and there's been a few ups and downs in that time, but now obviously we are in this pandemic, which is a very challenging situation for all of us in the retreat industry. My business is, I call it a boutique retreat company. I normally run around 10 retreats a year in places like Mongolia, Japan, Ecuador, some Scandinavian countries, as well as here in the UK. And each one of my retreats takes me at least a year, if not longer, to put together. I work really closely with my local partners to co-create them. It's a huge amount of work and love and investment that goes into all of them. So in 2020, I had to cancel all of them apart from one, or I've postponed them into 2021, and some of them are now being pushed into 2022. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't easy. It was heartbreaking. But I did manage to run retreat in the UK. Total COVID safety, worked so hard to put all those measures in place. It was like the best retreat we ever ran because we managed to do it in the middle of a pandemic and everyone loved it. And I also ran a free retreat for NHS hospital workers in September, which was just amazing. That's worth a whole other conversation, so I won't go into that right now. I am seeing some signs of recovery, and I hope you guys are too. Like, I've started to receive inquiries for trips kind of from the autumn onwards. Everyone wants to see my COVID booking policy. One of the things that I'm doing is I'm saying to people, if you want to come somewhere, don't give me any money, just book a place and we'll review it in April. So I'm kind of trying to keep people engaged. I'm offering them something to look forward to, without them feeling worried about money, because that's what everyone is concerned about. Is that if I pay you and it gets cancelled, am I going to lose my money? Which they're not, but it kind of saves that conversation. But what I want to talk to you about today is what I've been doing while we haven't been running retreats. So after the initial shock, I decided that I was going to use this time to study and learn and turn my business into a force for good. I'm really passionate about this. I think it's imperative, if you work in the travel industry, that you have to address our role in climate change, and you have to face it head on in a really honest way. And that as we come out of the pandemic, we have an opportunity to resume travel in a more responsible way. So last year I completed a 3-month travel design course with the Transformational Travel Council. I think I've definitely seen at least one other person who was on my course in this call today. I've been attending lots of virtual meetings and events about sustainable travel, the future of travel. So I've just been on a massive learning mission, basically. About mid-year last year, I wrote my own sustainable travel plan, which I've called a responsible retreat plan. And I've been putting that into action. I audited my entire business operation and calculated my carbon footprint, which is actually not that hard. I'm sure some of you have also done that. If you haven't, it's really straightforward. You can just do a calculator, or there's lots of different websites that do it. I did some research. There's loads of companies out there, but I chose Ecology as my offsetting partner. I had a really good chat with them. They helped me understand exactly how to measure my carbon footprint and make sure that I got it right and that I wasn't like making things up. So I worked really hard. That was my first step. And then I developed my own set of criteria, or what I've called eco credentials, for all of the places that I work. And then I measured each country and each venue that I work in against my eco credentials. And by doing that, I've taken on new venues for the future that score really high on my eco credentials. And some of the places that I'm working now that don't have such a good score, started to have conversations with them about how we can improve their scores. So I've kind of really started working more deeply with my local partners on that issue. I've also been talking to my audiences about this and getting them on board. And I think I just want to end, because it's the subject you could talk about for ages, by just saying, I'm sure you've all noticed, everyone knows this, but sustainable travel has become like a really big issue, particularly in this pandemic. And for me, as a retreat company, I've found that by focusing on this and working on this, I've increased my audience and their engagement, and I've also grown a whole new community in addition to the one that I already had of people that are interested in this issue. So I think that when travel resumes, and it will, I'm going to have an engaged audience who know who I am, what my values are, and they want to travel. I've been getting lots of messages from people saying, I love what you do. I can't wait to come to one of your retreats. And it's always after I post something about responsible retreating. And so I just wanted to end by saying, if you haven't already started this stuff and you're looking for some tips, my first advice to you is to write yourself a responsible retreat strategy or a sustainable travel plan, and make it bespoke, make it for your company or for your retreat center. Don't just go onto a website and cut and paste somebody else's. Like, do your own. It doesn't matter how complex it is, just put something out there and own it. Be honest. Like, don't greenwash. Like, we really have a responsibility not to greenwash here. Like, you can't say, oh, I work in Norway and it runs on 95% renewable energy, so I'm running a green retreat. That's not it. That's greenwashing. But kind of dig in, do your research, and just be honest. Wherever you're at is a good, responsible step. And be an active part of the responsible travel community. It's positive and it's powerful. And if you're looking for a starting point, read anything by Juliet Kinsman. I'm sure a lot of you already know who she is. She is the sustainability editor for Condé Nast Traveler. She's written so much stuff, and she has written this book, which is Green Travel. And if you want to have any tips, this is a good place to start. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, my love. That was lovely, very useful and interesting. Thank you to all three of our speakers. So please do ask some questions. We actually have our first question from Jessica. Jessica, if you want to unmute yourself, say who you are and ask your question. If we can keep questions short and to the point, and please say who you're directing them at. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, three great speakers. Really great to hear you. I'm Jessica. I run the Get Unstuck retreat in 2 days, which is an individual bespoke retreat in Spain. And my question is for Jean-Claude. Now, Jean-Claude, you talk about wanting to have more men on retreat. How do you target them? Have you changed the message that you put out from the retreat and in your marketing?
Thank you, Jessica, for your question. I think that partly, I think it is because I'm a man myself, that is one of the things, because I used to run a psychotherapeutic practice in London, and I had there as well 70 to 75% of my clients were men. Mm-hmm. I think that by speaking a lot in the articles, the features that I do in the Times on Saturday about anxiety, men in society, that automatically that gives me a certain direction that men might feel more comfortable to start talking to us. And I think that has been the biggest draw. There was one out on the 2nd of January this year, especially about men. And, you know, I had about, I know, 10 or 12 inquiries of men wanting to start working with themselves, you know, saying they felt that I had described them in that feature. So I can't say that, and I wouldn't want to go with the place retreats as something that, you know, it's a men only retreat, because we are not. But I would like men to be able to say in a couple of years, oh, I'm going through a very tough time with my divorce. I'm off to an emotional health retreat, you know, and see you in 2 weeks. Do you see what I mean? And that's what I'm sort of striving for.
Thank you, Jean-Claude. Do we have anyone else that wants to ask a question?
Hi everybody, so my name's Natasha. I am the director of Arvon's Shropshire Writing House. It's a couple of things really. It was just to say it was really interesting, Jools, to hear what you had to say about sustainability, because we as an organisation have used the opportunity to really focus in on inclusivity. Which is very much part of the values and is right at the heart of what we do as an organisation. But like everybody, we're a small entity, and it's about capacity, isn't it? And what you're able to focus on. So we have found that really helpful to be able to meet our diversity and equality group on an every other week basis, because of doing everything online now, compared to twice a year when we were able to do it because we're across 4 different spaces. So that was a comment I wanted to make, but also just to briefly ask each of the panelists what they've been doing to help support staff, their own teams at this time, because obviously that has been one of the things that has been incredibly challenging. We were able to get open just one of our spaces, the Clock House, for 10 weeks, but we had to, between the 2 UK lockdowns last year, but we had to completely change the way we ran that space into more like a hotel. And it was hugely gratefully received. It's still a writer's retreat. But obviously there's a lot of adjusting team members have had to make, and this has been such an anxious time for everyone. So I'm just keen to hear a little from each of the panelists as to how you've tackled that.
I think maybe Jean-Claude actually has the experience that best maps to your question, Natasha, but it's about keeping, for me, about keeping my team engaged. So I don't have a retreat center, so I don't have staff that is attached to one location. I have a team that is actually quite global. And so we've continued to meet regularly every week, visioning a new set of offerings, which includes, you know, guiding others in creating their new retreat designs. So we've sort of said, what are we good at and how can we continue to do that? And I think it's about remaining optimistic. So I would say that's the biggest, most important thing to do.
Thank you, Tania. Jean-Claude?
For us, it was a very difficult decision. We have permanent staff. And so I made the decision that we were going to keep everyone. 80% of the island is unemployed. The people that are with us, you know, most hotels and businesses fired people or put them on 20% of their salaries. I disagreed with that policy, and we decided to pay everybody full pay so that they could feed their families. That is what we did as a, you know, as a policy across the board, and we keep doing that until we are fully reopened.
Thank you, Jean-Claude. That's hugely impressive. Jools, do you have anything to add?
Mine's just a quick one. I don't have a retreat center either. And everybody who's on my team, they're contracted. So they're like yoga teachers, chefs. So they have all actually just carried on working and actually in a better position than me, I think, because at least they've been able to take their business online, especially with the yoga teachers. And with my local partners, what I did at the beginning of the pandemic is I basically just sent them all the deposits. Like some of them, their deposits weren't due. And I just sent that money over as soon as I could, so that they at least had, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 that was just sitting in their bank to keep them going, just so they know I'm not going anywhere, that I will run that retreat. I've just got to wait. And then I've just kept in touch with them. So That's a short answer.
Thank you, Jules. Over to Marina from Euphoria, who has a question.
Hello, everybody. This is great to see so many faces. And sometimes when we complain and you hear about Jean-Claude, you say, "Oh, we're." It feels not better, but it makes you understand the scope of the whole pandemic. You know, because we talk about Europe, but the fact that Bali in Indonesia was so shut down. Anyway, thank you for everything. And the question is for Tania. I'm the founder of Euphoria Retreat, and we had run, when the first lockdown, we decided to do virtual retreats. And although we're happy with that, what I found, which was different in the retreats we do in person, is that people were not so much willing to share. Even if we had two formats, we had the big format with lots of people, and then we did two retreats with a closed group, but still people were quite reluctant to share. And if she has any advice about how to help people open up in a Zoom setting.
Yeah, it has been the greatest discovery for me to see how people can be willing to drop in. I think sharing requires first that people attach to their own sense of story. So realizing that we all have a story and that there is no comparison or judgment will be required for free sharing. So whatever you have in your design, allow it to first encourage people to connect with themselves. And then a design format that we found that's very useful is a very quick share into a small group, allows people to wet their feet. Then a personal share from me or from my team really leads the way. So being very genuine and authentic, stepping out of the role maybe of leader and very much into here's how I am wrestling with that question, which might be a bit different than how we run it when we're in person, but I think here online we need to lead the way with that. And then giving people a few chances to go back into small groups. So I really use the breakout feature. I structure the groups so that there are 2, 3, or 4 people so that there is an intimacy. And I give them very specific questions to answer in that group. The more specific, the more likely that people will go in the direction. And the last thing I will say is we all know as retreat leaders, it's fundamental that you create a space that just oozes of safety and of comfort. And so that is still a responsibility of the retreat leader, even in a virtual format. So maybe those are all things that you're doing, Marina. I've seen your beautiful emails and website. I'm so happy to meet you because I always drool over it. So feel free to reach out if I can ask more.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marina and Tania. Does anyone else have a question? If you do, just raise your hand. I'd like to ask Tania, with your online retreats,
yes,
has it helped you make some money? Or is it just been a kind of, community creating and building exercise? We touched on this yesterday in a chat. Is it another revenue stream for you moving forward? Like I know it is for Arvin. Their online retreats are going to be their fourth center. What about you? Has that been a potential for you or not?
There is a potential there. We are leaning into it. We really had the mindset of, oh, this is a short-term thing, so let's just gift this to our community, be generous, hold everyone. And of course, every time we say that, the window keeps extending, but what it's allowed us to do is realize, oh, now we have an expertise in this. So we have 3 tiers of how people can participate. And the free version is probably ultimately what is most useful to us, because it's a way to keep everybody engaged in story, everybody thinking and being healthy, and quite frankly, whetting their appetite for when things open up. So just like Jools, you know, we're accepting expressions of interest, and as soon as we can go, we will. And so I really believe, because for us, relationship-driven clients are the most important. It is helping our bottom line. We are just not seeing it in a funnel right now.
Got it. That's useful. Thank you very much. Sarah Campbell, where are you, my love? Unmute and ask your question.
Okay, my question to Tania is, how does she draw traffic into her free, because her free events, I guess, are her funnel into then the paid things. How is she creating traction and getting new people in?
Yeah, it starts first with the people who are connected with you. And so your clients, the people who have enjoyed your space. Think about coffee chats. It really is a very low barrier to entry. No prep needed. Come join me, come sit for a couple hours. All of you are welcome to come sit for an hour and chat. And then just like a coffee chat, you know, it's like, hey, next time you come, why don't you bring a girlfriend? Why don't you bring a mate and come in together? And so I choose to grow things very organically. I also have quite a few people who know me through my blog and who enjoy my writing. And so I've really made a point of inviting them to not just be passive and read, but to come in and participate. So each month we set a theme. So this month's question is what matters most. So by setting a theme, we also attract people who are like, oh yeah, that's a good thing to reflect upon, you know? So I think give people a hook so that they have something that's relevant to them as they step into conversation with you.
Thank you, Tania.
So you're not using social media?
Oh yes, we have social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Those were up before. They are still important, but I really believe that we have an Eventbrite is another one that's very useful because it does its own promotion. But I do think that the vast majority of new people are actually those who are removed from people who are already attached to us. But yes, the social medias exist, but quite frankly, it's really hard to distinguish yourself on there. I mean, we all love great quotes and we all have super kind hearts, but there are many of us who do, you know? So I think go with the people who already love you and ask them to bring someone in. And the other thing is don't be shy. It is okay to say, guys, I'm in a position where my industry is decimated. Would you help? And bring a few people who might want to, you know, engage in this conversation, and they will help.
Super.
Thank you, Tania. I just want to bring in a couple of comments that people have made on the breakout chat. Natasha at Arvin said, we have found that smaller breakout rooms within writing weeks have really helped people share, as well as ensuring there is an Arvin host at all events and writing weeks. And Jessica in Spain, 2 days to get unstuck, says she's found virtual retreats have been really effective, and so will keep them even once the world opens up again. And that's closed private coaching retreats that she offers there. Thank you for all your beautiful comments on the chat, by the way. We've probably got time for one more question. I'm going to ask Victoria to step in here. Victoria, would you like to ask a question? My business partner, Victoria.
Hello, everybody. So we've heard about identifying men as a new market. But this is something that Caroline and I grapple with quite a lot. Is how do we make retreating more relevant for the young? So we're very aware that the mental health, you know, that's come out of this crisis is huge, and whether this is to the panel or anybody else in the room, any thoughts about how we appeal to the young? And when I say young, I mean really 25 and under.
Well, I'll just jump in and then hand it over. But I think one thing to remember is this whole virtual world and all the technology, and Zoom is just one little piece. There are a whole bunch of other apps, etc., that we use. That technology is strange to us and really accessible and normal to them. We worry about how will we connect in a virtual way. They have ease at doing so. So I think really leaning into the tools that already make sense to them is a great opportunity to reach them.
Thank you, Tania. Does anyone else want to add anything to that?
I've noticed I have been getting some inquiries from kind of, 20 to 25 saying they really want to go on a trip, but they can't afford it because my trips are not cheap ones. So I've offered them like payment plans and discounts, and I've kind of started just to have conversations. It's a new market for me, so I don't have any of the answers, but I've certainly said, why don't you have something to look forward to towards the end of the year, and we can do payment plans if that helps. So I'm trying to look for ways to make it affordable and accessible for them, but I'd love to hear if anybody else has got more experience.
Natasha from Arvin in the chat has said, we found that we have been able to be far more accessible to all audiences as well as young people during this time. We offer 18 to 25 concessions on all our retreats. Gertrude from Yubaba Lounge says that she offers free places on her online retreats through her sons. And of course, not all young people are poor either. There are quite a lot of young millennials who've got quite a lot of money to spend with no responsibilities and no children. So that is quite a core market, and I think a growing one as well. One more comment from Kate. We're looking at doing one reduced scholarship place on each retreat. And Jessica, my virtual retreat is cheaper as there are no ground costs. So I found inquiries from younger people and with payment plans help as well. So are there any final questions before we end this lovely session with everyone today? I haven't had a chance to say hello to everyone, but I've noticed Claudia from Holy Mama, hello. It's lovely to see you, and all the people I haven't met and I have met. It's such a pleasure that you've taken the time. Thank you so much for joining us. Wendy, Yoga on a Shoestring, thank you for coming, and Shannon, Mindfulness Journeys, and everyone I haven't mentioned. It's such an honor for Victoria and I to see you all here today. Please do drop us an email with some feedback if you have any, and if you do think of anything at all you want to ask Jools, Jean-Claude or Tania, or indeed anyone else that you've seen today on here, just drop me an email and I can field it accordingly. We are part of a community and we're here to support each other. We're not in competition with each other. We're here to support each other and help everyone grow. As Jean-Claude says, there's a piece of the pie for everyone. Everyone here today, I've reviewed a lot of your retreats. I can guarantee, you're all brilliant at what you do. You know that. So, let's help each other survive and thrive, and let's push you guys out there and help change the world.